Hello world! Today I'll be talking about a fiction romance-ish novel by an Irish writer. It's called Pieces of My Heart by Sinead Moriarty. Now the story is about a family made up of a couple, Paul and Ava, who have two teenage children, Alison and Sarah. Ava is the protagonist of the story as the multitasking mother slash wife slash business associate and even daughter. Her husband Paul is a workaholic who's absorbed in running his pub. Alison, their eldest daughter, is the goody-goody, studious, humble, and considerate one who attends to everyone's needs, gets straight A's, and always stays out of trouble. Sarah, on the other hand, is the bold, boisterous, and braggadocious sister who is the complete opposite of Alison. She's outspoken, she's overconfident, and she's very strong-willed. She is the type to actually get into trouble. In fact, her parents always make it a point to remind her how much they're paying for her education. She may come off as a bit of an egotistic airhead who's absorbed in materialism and popularity, but boy, does the author give her the best lines in the book that end up giving Sarah's character such depth and dimension. Ava's dad, Charlie, is a recently widowed 68-year-old who at the beginning of the novel has happily lost his hopelessly alcoholic wife who made his life a living hell, and so he's hell-bent on getting some action before her body is even buried. He stays with Paul and Ava while he waits for his new apartment to be set up. Now, Sally is Ava's best friend and business partner. Together, they run a party planning business. Sally is very close to the family. However, she's portrayed as an independent single woman who is unfortunately unlucky in love, often suffering from the miserable blind dates that her family set up for her. The story starts out in comic relief, with Charlie, as I said before, in desperate need of satisfying his sexual impulses. We also gather that Paul and Ava's marriage requires a rekindling of sorts, as the busyness of their daily life sort of creeps up on them and drifts them apart slowly, especially as Paul becomes more and more occupied in single-handedly running his pub business. As the story unfolds, Alison, Ava's elder daughter, experiences a breakup with her current boyfriend David. This event acts as a trigger that progressively and unbeknownst to anyone spirals into a series of unexplainable and concerning symptoms or habits, which eventually gets unraveled to be anorexia. It takes time for the family to acknowledge, accept, and even face how grave this eating disorder is and how it has completely robbed them of the old Alison. Now, the book does a really thorough job at detailing the compulsive habits of an anorexic, what goes on through their minds, and how it affects the victim's life, including the people closest to them, from family members to friends. Smiley, cheerful, warm, and friendly Alison becomes totally replaced by a snappy, tired, and always cold Alison who hides food under the bed, withdraws herself, from society, exercises compulsively, and religiously weighs out every morsel of food that she's about to ingest. Now, I never really thought about how anorexia is first and foremost a mental illness, more than anything else, because it presents itself as a deeply distorted perception of one's own body image, which, if left unchecked or untreated, can actually lead to death in severe cases. Like, it can actually get that extreme. In Alison's case, we learn that the illness can actually be caused by multiple factors, including repressed childhood traumas, which then compound in the guise of the fear of not having any control. We get to experience, from a mother's perspective especially, the harrowing trial of having to deal with this condition and the resulting infinite amount of guilt accompanying that, in terms of like, where did I go wrong, parenting-wise. Meanwhile, Ava also has to deal with her sex-obsessed dad, who meets a Polish pole dancer half his age and with whom he wants to get married to. Ava's younger daughter, Sarah, who, as I said, is the airhead, crazy, reckless one, turns out to be the sanest and most normal one in the family, given the circumstances. In fact, the author beautifully shows us rare moments in which Sarah actually demonstrates flashes of insight and deep wisdom, and sometimes even like an endearing camaraderie towards Allison, despite her character's seeming inability to express affection in a non-sarcastic way. Also, her not having a filter and pretty much saying whatever is on her mind, no matter how controversial, makes her the object of comic relief throughout the story. Among the things that she's obsessed about is spray tanning herself and her boyfriend and nailing her role as Juliet in the school's modern interpretation of Romeo and Juliet. So eventually, Allison gets admitted into a clinic that specializes in treating girls with eating disorders. The clinic follows a strict regimen of multiple weighed out meals per day. The patients are constantly supervised and monitored to ensure that they actually eat their meals, they don't try to throw it up, and they ensure that they're not doing any exercises. Again, we experience the entire journey of Ali's treatment, her relapse, and her slow recovery as she becomes determined to fight off the anorexia and take back control of her life. Sarah happens to reveal Charlie's pole dancer's fiance's plan to make him believe that the baby she's pregnant with is his. It obviously isn't, and he learns his lesson. Sally finally ends up with a guy that she likes, but although she's adamant on not having children and has always identified herself as non-maternal, while her significant other does want kids, they decide on this somewhat strange agreement where they will live beside each other, he will adopt a child, and she will kind of become its stepmom. Kind of weird, yes. My final thought is that although the book wasn't exactly that amazing or brilliant, it made for a somewhat casual read, and if anything, Sarah's amusing character and her antics made it worthwhile, as again, there was some dialogue from her part that will definitely make you chuckle. Other than that, the only other reason I may recommend the book is because it sheds light on an underrated but important topic, which is anorexia, and how that affects not only the person suffering from it, but that person's surrounding environment. I would rate the book 3 out of 5 stars. Thanks for stopping by, folks. Until next time, happy reading!